Morning, all. All right, I'm gonna get through it. This is like my fifth take, but I'll get through it. We're gonna get this done. It's the transition between different things, and it's I'm gonna do my best to get this take should be the last one. So Kevin Kurtz probably making friends in Shark fan land, and reporting on things he's hearing. He's doing what a reporters do. You report on things you hear, and he's got sources. Yes, they're unnamed, because if he named the sources, he wouldn't have any. But he's reporting more about the Evander Kane break with the organization, and with the organization being with his teammates, and saying this was going on all year. Odds are he's probably getting texts and messages from players saying, "Man, you won't believe," and then giving him stories, right? Including him being late to practices, late on game days, and issues with assistant coaches as well during the year. And when they bring all of this to Doug Wilson's response being, every team has locker room issues. And players saying, well, not on teams that win, which is true. If you haven't seen The Last Stand, which is the documentary on the final run that the Chicago Bulls had, they have a whole episode dedicated to Dennis Rodman deciding, I'm going to go to Vegas, and talking about how Dennis Rodman would just leave. I'm going to go wrestle. I'm gonna go to WCW and I'm going to wrestle, and then I'll come back the next day. And he would do this, and he would just leave. But the team dealt with it, and it wasn't really a big deal in the end because they won. Now, if you're losing and Rodman's doing this kind of thing, it's a problem. And you'll focus on Rodman and say, we're losing games. We're not all focused, and Dennis is definitely not focused. But because it's the Bulls, because you've got Jordan and Pippen and everybody, and because they're winning and they're kind of a machine, it's just Rodman being Rodman. If Evander Kane was being late to practices and just, these kinds of things on a team that's winning all the time, I don't think it makes nearly as many headlines. I don't think we'd be hearing reports of players saying, look, if he's back next year, we don't want to be part of it. I think a lot of this has to do with losing. Losing is miserable. And on losing teams, you're always going to have these disconnects. I know it's happened many times to teams wearing this jersey, where one year everything will seem great, and the next year everything in Vancouver is disjointed, and you can tell there's players getting on each other's nerves because losing is miserable. So when you're losing, the guy that's late to practice, the guy that you don't feel like's giving 100%, even though he's your most talented offensive player, on some level you have to be saying, boy, but if he was here all when he's supposed to be on time, and if the effort was 100% of what we think it should be, he'd score more. And there's certainly something to be said for players that have very good careers, and yet when we look back, we say that effort could have been better. And it just feels to me like that's what a lot of this is. So San Jose, I don't think Kane's going anywhere. And I think they're determined to fix this from within. But Wilson apparently has some work to do to fix it. So, yeah, and again, I would expect Kevin Kurtz is going to be getting some flack online for more reporting on this. But, you've got to report on what you're given, right? Now, news out of the hockey world yesterday. Tragic news of the passing of Tony Esposito, who had been fighting pancreatic cancer. And it is tragic. Now, at the time where I started watching hockey, it was towards the tail end of Esposito's career. And yet still, I knew how big a star he was. That name, of course, Phil, Tony, both Espositos, huge names in the game. And as I was starting to watch hockey, Phil had already retired. Tony was getting close, and Murray Bannerman was kind of replacing him in net at the time where I started watching. But Esposito, absolutely a legend, huge personality, and lots of great tributes yesterday to Tony Esposito as well, which I thought were very heartfelt and really, really nice to see that he touched so many people in his life over his 78 years. So condolences to his family and friends, and to those who knew him, to his former teammates, and probably some of his opponents as well that liked him a lot. It's tough to find people that would have said anything bad about Tony that I can even remember. Tony O, as he was called, he was one of a kind. Because again, You know, we're talking about players not necessarily being all that popular. I never heard anything bad about Tony Esposito. So, yeah, again, condolences. I will at some point do a career video. I did double check yesterday. I have done a career video on Phil Esposito. I've never done one on Tony Esposito. That will happen, not now, but probably about a month from now. We'll do a video on Tony Esposito's career. So, in signing news, Neil Pionk avoids arbitration, and depending on how you view this contract, either it's an overpayment or it's right about where it should be. But 4 years for Pionk at a cap hit of $5.875 million. I mean, is it high? Probably, but with the amount of money defensemen have been making in the offseason, it just feels like GMs have gone, all right, we're just going to give all our money to the defenseman anyways. But I don't think Pionk's is that far outside of what he should have made anyways. So maybe you can make an argument. But again, with some of the other contracts that have been signed, Pionk at $5.875 million doesn't look that far outside the realm of what he should be making anyways, right? So yeah, they avoid arbitration, as most players will. That's the name of the game, avoiding arbitration. Speaking of players who are unsigned, however, and the reason I'm wearing one of my Pettersson jerseys, I have two of them. I love Elias Pettersson. I do. I think that Elias Pettersson is one of the most talented forwards the Canucks have ever had. And they've had some very talented forwards in their existence. And Pettersson didn't necessarily have a great year this year. A lot of that had to do with injury and just, you know, it was just a rough year for him. But in talking about getting his contract done, first off, he says that he has faith that his agent and the Canucks can work out a deal, right? But what got Canuck fans going and made me kind of snicker is that I just want to play where there's a chance of winning rails against Canuck fans, apparently. Eddie Lack. The first thing I saw on Twitter this morning was Eddie Lack saying, I'm not sure what Canuck fans are upset about. Pettersson just said he wants to win. I think it's this line in particular. I want to stay there, being Vancouver, but I also want to play for a team that's winning and has the chance to go far into the playoffs every year. So he's talking about, I'm going to re-sign my contract. I'm going to re-sign in Vancouver. But at the end of that contract, if I don't feel like the team's a contender with a chance to win every year, I want to play on a team where I have a chance to win. Canuck fans took this personally, which I have to admit I found hilarious. Like, I know that there are a lot of people who think I'm really negative on the Canucks. I can be, but the idea that he's saying, hey, if I sign a 4 or 5 year deal, and if the Canucks aren't winning 4 or 5 years from now, I want a chance to go somewhere else with a chance to win, he's right. The Canucks, over however long this contract is, and it looks like it's probably going to be the 4 to 5 year range, if the Canucks can't make themselves a winner, well, how many more years is he supposed to stick around? And it's the same argument we've seen with other star players. How long does a star player, how many years of a player's prime will they give up before they say, you know, I'd like a chance to win? I have no problem with what Pettersson says here. He's not even saying I'm not going to play in Vancouver. He's just saying at the end of this coming contract, I want to play where I have a chance to win. And the fact that there are fans saying, he didn't say Vancouver. Okay, well, all right, but if Vancouver's winning at this point, he's basically saying, I'll stick around. I just want to see where we're at 4 or 5 years from now. The Canucks have made the playoffs once since 2015, so it's not like it's outside the realm of possibility that the Canucks could be mediocre 4 years from now. They could also be a contender, and that's how I take it. I know there are those discussions about how negative I am. I go, you know what? 4 or 5 years from now, there's no reason the Canucks can't be a contender. I'm not going to say they will be, but there's no reason they can't be. There's no reason that they can't build an environment where Pettersson wants to stay and so does everybody else. And yet here he is going, I'd like to play somewhere where I have a chance to win, and Canucks fans going, and we took that personally. All right. So, yeah, I agree with Eddie Lack. I'm not sure what there is there to take offense with, because he's just being honest. He's just saying, I want a chance to win. And, yeah, you know, a chance to go far into the playoffs every year. What player doesn't want that? So, yes, 4 or 5 years from now, maybe Tampa Bay's giving him a call. Maybe it's Florida. Maybe Dallas puts something together over the next 4 or 5 years. But don't worry about that then. Just worry about signing him to the contract and building a good team around him now. That should be the concern, right? All right. That being said, moving along, Tyler Benson has signed a 1-year, 2-way deal with the Edmonton Oilers. Benson's one of those guys, and I've been wanting to do one of those 32 team videos on this. Benson's a guy who might be looking at a make or break year. The thing is, when you're talking about make or break years, which is, you know, Benson, if he can make it onto the Oilers roster and get a chance to prove himself, maybe then he will be a guy that they look to build around long term as part of their core. At least a top 9 forward. But if he ends up in the AHL and he's not able to play for them this coming year, does he end up moving on to another organization next year? So I've been wanting to do a video on that, but it's odd because I've done that before. I've talked about make or break seasons, and sometimes it can come across as being impatient, where it's, well, that guy's only had 1 year. It's impatient. But again, it comes to how far out from the draft they are, and where they are in their development, that kind of thing. So I do wish Benson the best. I do. I think he's a good forward, and I'd like to see him succeed. Same with Ty Ronning, who re-signed with the Rangers on a 2-way extension as well. I believe that was 4 or 5 days ago. But yeah, so there you go. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below as always. Don't forget to hit like and subscribe if you're browsing your way through. You just happened upon this video. And again, if a player on a team you cheer for says, I'd like to have a chance to win, and you hear that as, that means he doesn't want to be here, well, you're already halfway defeated. Anyways, there you go. Let me know your thoughts. Hit like and subscribe if you're browsing your way through. You just happened upon this video. And hey, thank you guys so much for watching, for all your support. I will talk to you again soon.